Hi everyone, and welcome to the Book Refuge. And it is Valentine's week, and I wanted to make you a video of my favorite romances of all time. So this was actually really hard to put together because I tend to love the romance that I'm reading now. And if a romance gives me all the feels and it just makes me want to swoon, and if it can touch me, if it can touch my heart and show me a little bit about like human nature and be raw and real, I think that that's so beautiful. So I put together a list of, I have seven here, that are my favorite romances of all time. They're through a few different genres, and of course, I'll be giving you reasons why. Before I get started though, I do tons of romantic content. I read historical romance, I read dark romances, I read lots of Kindle romances. You can find recs and things for all of those on my page. And if you want more of that content, please make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified when I post videos. I post 3 to 4 times a week, so there's going to be tons for you if you want to join the Book Refuge community. So let's get started. The first one that I have on here, I just recently read, and it really, really touched my heart. I went in totally in depth in it in my last wrap up that I had for the second half of January, and also in a video I did with my friends, which we're starting this group called the Romance Takeover Booktube. And that video is on my friend Bree's channel, where I gave like a 3-minute synopsis of this book. But that book is Love Her or Lose Her. And I can't believe that this book is on my favorite romance list, but when I was putting this together, I really went through and thought, like, which books really touched me and like spoke to me on a different level. And Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey really did that for me, because it speaks on love languages. And I say this every time I talk about the book. Love languages will come up again later in this as well. But it is so important to me that we learn how to love each other in all relationships, in familial relationships, friend relationships, but especially our romantic relationships, to be completely fulfilled and happy and content for the long haul in our relationships. And Love Her or Lose Her is about Rosie and Dominic. This is the second book in the Hot and Hammered series by Tessa Bailey, by the way. And I was expecting just a fun romp with this story, because that's what the first one was. It was really sexy, it was fast-paced, it was a fake dating trope, and this one is about a couple that's already married. And I haven't read many second chance romances where the couple is already married. And they're not a divorced couple, it's not them coming back again later, or they loved each other young. Like, this is a couple, they've been together for over 10 years. Dominic is a Marine, and he had had a couple tours, and he loves his wife, and his wife loves him, but she's feeling really unfulfilled, and it's time for her to go after her dreams. And Dominic thinks everything is fine until Rosie, on their weekly sex date, decides that she's done, and she packs a bag to leave. And Dominic thinks he can just win her back with their sexual chemistry, which is, of course, smoking, because it is Tessa Bailey. But she needs more than that. She's not feeling fulfilled or loved. And she knows that they have good sexual chemistry, but that's not enough to keep her. And Dominic is not ready to give up, and he says he'll do anything she asks him to do. Rosie just wants to move on with her life. And so she finds the craziest, wackiest therapist that she can in their town, believing that Dominic will throw in the towel and just let her go because he won't want to talk about his feelings. Well, Rosie's wrong. And Dominic takes all of this to heart, and he's ready to fight for his marriage. And their therapist, he's not that crazy, in my opinion. He bans them from sex for a while and has them do these different homework assignments where they prove how much they love each other and see if they're willing to continue working on their marriage. And it was beautiful. And when they have some of these discussions, Rosie realizes that she's not the only one who isn't being supported in the way that they want. And Dominic, he's been doing everything he can, but they're speaking the wrong language to each other. It was beautiful. This is also a diverse read, and it was so amazing. And I think that if you are someone who's married or been in a long-term relationship, or maybe wants to see that dynamic, I think it's done really beautifully here. And this is a perfect Valentine's read, in my opinion. Next, I want to talk about a couple of throwback books. So this one, this is actually a religious romance, but it was written by an author who had just recently come to her faith, and she was working through a lot of things. This is called Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. And I read this book almost 2 years ago now. I read it on Valentine's Day to myself, and it was heartbreaking. It is a retelling of the story of Hosea and his wife, which, if you haven't read the Bible, that's okay. This story kind of tells you the story as well. But it is about this girl named Angel who has been abused and mistreated by every man in her life. She has had a forced miscarriage. She was sold to slavery as a young girl. She was the daughter of a mistress and this man, and she was abandoned by them. And her mother basically just like gave up on life when Angel's father left her. And Angel is at the end of her rope. And then we have Michael. And Michael has been looking for a wife. And he is a man of God. And he asked God to send him a wife. And Michael is in town one day. He has a farmstead, a homestead that he's building up. And he's in town one day. And God tells him to go into this brothel. And he goes and spends time with Angel. And so he pays for time with Angel, but he doesn't sleep with her. And he tries to convince her to leave and marry him. And he says he will buy her if she will come and be his wife. And Angel is just like, whatever, dude, just sleep with me and get out of here. Like, I don't believe you. I don't trust you. And so Michael keeps going back to see her, spending his money to see her, and is like, come away with me. Come away with me. I will be your husband. I will treat you well. And the whole book is about him proving how he loves her. But he's not perfect. This isn't, I mean, if you've ever read a Christian romance before, number one, you've probably read this one, but I'm telling you, you don't have to be a Christian or share my faith to appreciate this book. It's the kind of love that I've seen in other romance novels, but I've never seen it shown this way. And Angel can't just be fixed by someone loving her. She needs to learn to love herself. And it was beautiful. It is so romantic and gut-wrenching and beautiful. And I highly suggest you give it a chance. It's historical romance, and it does have faith in it. And the faith makes it another level of beautiful to me because I'm a woman of faith. But I think there is plenty to get from this story, even if you're not. So next, I gotta bring up an oldie but a goodie, and that's Jane Eyre. I just love the romance in this. I love that it's messy. I love that Rochester's kind of a jerk, but he's had a really tough life, and so has Jane. And her stubbornness to do her best, no matter how the world has treated her, her endurance just really speaks to him and brings him new life after he basically was just rotting away after some bad things have happened to him. And I just love this story, and I think it's so romantic. And who cares if it's problematic? Like, everything I read is problematic. Romance is problematic. There is no perfect romance out there because we're humans, and it's just not. But I love Jane Eyre, and I love how it's almost a romance with herself in some ways, because she knows who she is, but she has never had to prove it until she meets Rochester and be willing to stand up for who she is and not be pushed around. And I love that about her. I love it so much. Next, I want to talk about A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. And yes, I would call this book romantic. And yes, I don't care how many people want to trash it or call this or that or whatever. The depth of love that Rhys has for Feyre, and the way that he is patient, and the way that he is kind, and the way that he empowers her is amazing to me. The place that she's come from, the depression that she's been in, this is the second book in a series, so I mean, well, I've kind of already spoiled it by saying certain things, but I find this book so romantic. just in how there is a slow burn to this, how there is so much healing that Feyre has to do, how she's not ready to just jump in bed with this crazy mythical being that she is surrounded by, but how Rhys is willing to wait and be patient and to uplift her and teach her and help her and woo her. And I love it. I love it so much. This book brings me so much joy, and I just love watching Feyre's journey and how her healing herself and like making her own decisions leads her to Rhys in the end. Even though when you read the first book, you can never imagine how it'll get there. I love it. I love it so much. Next, I want to talk about North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is also a classic. I have loved the TV series, miniseries for about 10 years now, and I had never read the book, and I was afraid to read the book because along with a couple other movies where I actually love the movies so much, I'm afraid to read the book and have there be a comparison. Because in general, I usually love books more, and I love that show so much. But this is about a girl from the South where she is a reverend's daughter. She's lived a happy life, kind of innocent, very naive, and then her father leaves his job and they have to move to the north, which is very industrial and loud and dirty, and the people are rude and uncouth, and she's just not prepared for it. And she meets John Thornton, who owns a cotton mill and is her father's new student. And he is a lot of those things. He's a gentleman, but he's a self-made gentleman, and he's a bit rude and curt, but he immediately likes Margaret, and he immediately loves her. But he hates that he does because he knows it wouldn't go the way he wanted it to go. And there's no way that this woman, this perfect, beautiful, naive woman, will love him. And it's kind of a Pride and Prejudice, but it's also kind of a hate to love, but also a love at first sight. It's so many things. And there is a lot happening about like workers' rights. There's strikes happening. This is very political as well. But it's so beautiful, and watching these two work through, their thoughts of each other, like fighting their attraction, finding out who they really are, it makes them coming together so sweet. And because this is also a historical romance, it is a long, slow journey, but the book went so fast, and I loved it. And I still love the movie just as much because the movie did a great job translating what's in the story. The story just made it even deeper because we get all of the thoughts that are inside John's head and all the thoughts in Margaret's head. And so you get to see, just like with Pride and Prejudice, where you get to see in Darcy and Elizabeth's head, you get to see how they slowly work their way towards each other. And then the last book I want to talk about is The Eyre, and this is by Grace Burrows. So I read this book last year and I raved about it. This is a historical romance which has, a cheesy cover like a lot of them do. There's abs, there's unclothed people. But this book, guys, which is big for historical romance, it's about 450 pages instead of about like 300 to 350. And it is so beautiful. It is about this woman who is the housekeeper for this lord who's just bought a new house in town, and she has some secrets. And their first meeting, because she's been taking care of his house like before he moved into it, is he's trying to help this servant girl who's deaf release herself from the fireplace because she gets like stuck on it, and he's trying to help her, and she's deaf, so she can't hear him say that he's trying to help her. And so he's behind her trying to help her, and the housekeeper comes in and she hits him over the head with a fire poker because she thinks he's trying to rape this girl. And instead of him immediately firing her for almost killing him, he explains himself and he says, I can see why you would think that. There are plenty of lords who will assault housemaids, but that's not me. And as a little bit of punishment, and in kind of a cute way, he says, well, for the next week until my concussion is better, you're going to be at my beck and call because you almost killed me. And it's all in good fun because he's not angry, he's hurt. They start to talk a lot during that time, and he soon realizes that he cares about her and wants to be with her, but she's keeping a secret. And though I don't really like the trope of there's a secret that I can't tell you, this one is very serious, and the implications don't just involve our main heroine. There are other people who would be affected if she shared this secret. And that doesn't stop him from trying to win her and woo her and show that he will stand by her no matter what. And the reason I think this is so romantic is bringing up love languages again. Now, the author never specifically mentions love languages in this story because it's a historical romance and that wouldn't have really been a thing yet. However, it's very clear to see that our main character, that physical touch is his love language. And that is also my love language. And physical touch does not just mean that the sexual kind of touch. It means that people you love, people that are in your close circle, you show affection by touching them, by holding their hand, patting their back, hugs when you say hello, kisses on the forehead, just showing affection. And Gale, which is the name of our hero, he does that with his family. He hugs his father. He hugs his brother when he's had a bad day, which is so out of place for like Regency romances that my mind was blown. And when he spends time with Anna, he isn't always trying to get something from her. There's a time when she's fixing the wound on his head and he just rests his head forward on her stomach and just wants to be touched. He just wants to feel her affection for him without there being anything else to come from it. There are times where he just wants her to lay beside him because he can't sleep if she's not there. And it was so romantic because I can tell that he needs those things to feel connection. And it's not because he's trying to get something or have it go his way. He just needs her there. And the way he shows his love to her, the things he does to woo her, the way he takes steps to do whatever she needs, it is so beautiful. And also we get introduced to the Wyndham family, which is what this series is about the Wyndham Duke trying to find his sons and daughters' spouses. It's so beautiful. And I really enjoyed the second one, The Soldier, as well. But the Eyre was so beautiful and romantic. So there you go. I hope you will try one of these reads if you're looking for something extra romantic for Valentine's week. And yeah, tell me what you think of them. Tell me if you've read any of them and how you felt about it. And yeah, I make new videos 3 to 4 times a week. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to see more. Have a wonderful day. Bye.